Hey everyone, so in the following video you're going to see me changing a window regulator in a Chevy Colorado. I can't get that involved in certain things at certain times. I'm working a full-time job and filming at the same time. So sometimes I can't get into the detail that I really want to, which will be the case with this video. It's just kind of like a general overview, but I kind of wanted to get into better detail, but I can't, not all the time. It depends on what's going on around me. Time restraints, stuff like that. But everything's going to be changing soon. In terms of that, I should be able to make way more detailed videos and better quality videos coming up in the next several months. I have something in the works. Something's going to be happening, and it's going to be for the better. So, but yeah, stay tuned for that. So, as for now, enjoy the video. Hey guys, so what am I working on now? Well, I'm working on that Chevy Colorado, and I'm going to be replacing the driver's window regulator. It's actually a manual crank window. I think the regulator is actually working fine, but something's going on. And the customer says that the splines on the end have been rounded out because he's changed the actual handle with a steel handle, and it eventually kind of rounded it out. I tried to put a plastic one on there just to see, and it does skip. So I also think that this piece sticking out may actually be in a little bit. This is what I'm talking about, the actual part where the window crank goes in. And if you look inside, it looks like there may be some kind of damage to the inside. So I gotta get this door panel off. Phillips screw there, Phillips screws down there, and I don't think there's any around the edge of the door. No. Okay, so let me get those out and see how we get this panel off. With those screws out, usually you gotta take this trim piece off. Just like that. It's to block off the mirror end where the hardware is that holds it in place. So now, let's see. I've never had one of these apart before. Basically it had push clips holding the panel to the door itself. Okay, that comes off too. And that comes off. Okay, relatively simple. And look at that mess. Oh. Yep. Wow. That is a mess. Okay. Now let me disconnect this. I tell you, when you buy a bargain vehicle, you get all sorts of surprises. All right, let me disconnect this. Why aren't you coming apart? All right, let me get that apart. All right, so I stuffed the water shield over there. That was the water shield that belongs on here, obviously. And this gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, that's spray foam insulation, and of course the speaker was crazy glued in place, and it fell apart as I disconnected it. And of course, we're going to do all of that because we put speakers in. I can't stand it when people do that stuff. You just destroy everything in the process. This regulator actually looks like it was probably replaced at some point in time. That is definitely not the original. So I got to see what I could figure out here, because that is not protruding enough. Why? I don't know. I'm going to take it out and investigate it. Get this off. There's a 10 here. There's a 10 you can see through the window there. You take those out, and then the glass comes off the regulator itself. What we're going to do is we're going to put the glass up inside the channel, and we're going to tape it in place. The tape works best. At least that's what I have found. Now, with those two screws out, that one there and that one there, the whole window should just pick up like that. See that? So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick it up and stuff it into the seal up there, and then I'm going to put tape on it. With that up in place, we're going to take these screws out. This nut here, this one we're going to loosen. This bolt we're going to loosen. These three are going to come out. Then this whole thing should come out. Now on older vehicles, this type of a regulator, you got to be careful of this spring. You got to know what you're doing, because if you're taking stuff apart and it's spring loaded, that spring is strong enough to chop your fingers off. Not on this type. Well, this type it probably is, but just because of the design, it's not going to come apart. The other ones, like on older vehicles, I'm talking like, 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, stuff like that. You start taking it apart and you got your hand in there and you take the wrong thing apart, all of a sudden it can snap, and that thing will act like a guillotine, and it will take your fingers off. So just something to be mindful of. All right, so let me get all those screws out. Let me get that out. Now, if you look carefully at those splines on, that's the one I took out. this thing has been replaced, but if you look carefully at the spline, see they're kind of rounded off a little bit. That's the new one that I just got. And they're much crisper, much sharper splines to that. So I'm going to go with the new one. I mean, I don't really see anything much wrong with this one. I mean, like I said, I did try a new handle and it just starts to skip. So, you know, could it be just that it's rounded off from him using an aluminum one like he said? I mean, if you look, those teeth are pretty gnarled up. I don't know. Weird. But he did want me to replace it, so that's what we're going to do. I mean, if I didn't think that was going to fix anything, then I wouldn't do it. But it's a very good possibility it will. All right, just very strange situation there. And I was curious, and I think the depth, for some reason, between the two, I think the depth may be slightly different. The shaft length is the same, but it almost looks like the offset there, compared to the offset there, is a little bit different. I don't know how that would even be or why it would even be, but it almost appears to be, because they look to be identical pieces, probably both Dormans. And they both have that green dot right there, so they've got to be from the same manufacturer. I don't know. All right, we're going to put this in and see what happens. All right, so the regulator's in and bolted up. I mean, this is just so darn simple, it's not even funny. It took me almost no time at all. Now, the track here that the glass actually lays into, you can maneuver this back and forth a bit, like this. Some vehicles, they won't stop. You got to be careful because it'll fall off and then you got to just reattach it. But it moves around because there's, you know, different vehicles have different placement for the clips that actually hold the clip to the glass. So, and plus the clip may be in a slightly different position from one vehicle to the next, so it allows it to move a little bit. No big deal. Plus it has to move when the glass goes up and down. Yeah, so let me take the tape off. Let me drop that back down in place. Let me catch those bolts. Not a big deal. Very simple. So there we go, laid in place. And like I said, this can move around because the clip here may be in a slightly different position from one to the next. So, you know, it may be a little bit further back. Usually what they do is they attach them to this piece first and then glue it to the glass. So it may wind up in a slightly different position, but anyway. So you catch the screws. Now sometimes the glass actually has a hole going through it where the bolt will actually pass through the glass, but it's got a plastic grommet. Be mindful of how tight you make them, because if you over tighten them, you can actually shatter the glass. So this one, just put it in, zip it down. They're little, 6mm bolts with a 10mm head. It doesn't take much to tighten them down. So let me get those caught, and then let's make sure that this window works okay. All right, so that's all hooked up. So now let's see. Before, when I did this, the handle would just go this handle. So, right now the glass seems to be working fine. So I'm good with that. Now I just got to put this. I got to fix that stupid speaker thing, and then get this back together. This is just this whole truck is just not. It looks great, but it's not a great truck. I just wanted to show you this. This is the original handle that the truck came in with, and it's aluminum or like a cast pot metal. And see that it skips. So I don't want to do that too much and possibly distort this, but that's what the problem was. And it rounded off the edges here just enough to where even a plastic one, because this is a plastic handle, even a plastic one wouldn't grab it, even though it's got good splines in it. All right, let's get this together. One thing I wanted to point out, the water shield, this shield here, it's very important. A lot of people throw them out. Don't do that. You can actually wind up with a water leak in the car. What happens is water passes through that outer seal there to the glass. All cars it happens to. The water lands inside the door. It drains out, and it drains at the back, on the bottom corners here. See that right there? That's a drain. Every car has it. However, what happens is when it hits the glass and it drains off the glass, it has a tendency to do this and splash this way. So splash hit the inside of the panel here. It could hit the inside of the opening here, or you have little holes in the panel here, for different things. So what happens is the water will eventually hit the water shield. If you don't have the water in there, it'll go to the outside, go to this point, and then drip between the door panel and the actual frame of the door, which means you're going to get water on this side here. If you look, see that? It's got that opening there in the panel. The reason being is water will collect in between this seal here and the metal panel or the inner shell of the door, and it'll drip through here to the inside of the door. That's a drain. That's what it's there for. So be sure to put that back on. You could wind up with a water leak if you don't. Now, one thing too with this door panel, on the inside here where somebody cobbled all of this, spray foam insulation. The spray foam insulation distorts the door panel and pushes it outward. It'll actually expand this way, and it's pushing the actual panel itself outward. So catching the splines that come through here for the window crank, it may become an issue. So I am going to take all of this stupid spray foam out of here because it's not necessary. I don't know what somebody was thinking when they did that, but we're going to take all of that out of there. And there you go. Everything's in place. Now the handle actually fits on much better than it did before. So I'm confident it was just that stupid foam that somebody stuck in there that was pushing the thing out so much that it put pressure on that and it never sat correctly. But everything's good now. Everything's working the way it's supposed to, so I'm happy with that. He'll be happy. All right, so that's pretty much it. So if you're getting something out of my videos, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.